I think you can safely throw all of their balls in the bingo turner, and you're going to get the same result. So
Right.
All right, that was terrible. I need to redo that. Please edit that, Madison. Welcome to the Formation Yap podcast, where when 5 lights go out, the hot takes come on. Gentlemen, we have a not so new host now. Justin, good to have you back, buddy.
Yeah, happy to be here.
And we have our lead host, JD Underwood, and myself, Cameron Cook. Spa.
Yep, the Belgian Grand Prix, and I am so excited. And remember, guys, we only get this race this year, and then I think we have 2 years off because this is one of those tracks that's going to be rotating out with Barcelona, and yeah, I don't think we come back till 29.
The drivers are going to hate that.
I mean, some like Fernando Alonso's never won here. Did you know that? So he's not going to miss it. Because he's going to be so close to winning this race anyway.
I was about to say I know he's been anticipating a lot of races this year. So, but so for this track, long track. So we got 4.3 miles, which is not quite a mile longer than what we saw at Silverstone. As far as the turns go, we had 18 turns in Silverstone. We got 19 here. We got 10 right, 9 left. But our straights, we've got 3 main straights, but you'll have 5 straights overall,
and
right?
They're long.
And they are long. Now they won't be as far as the full throttle potential. It's not going to be as long as what you saw in Silverstone, because in Silverstone you did have a couple of those turns where they just weren't braking. Mm-hmm. Here it's going to be about 30 to 32 seconds depending on the speed of the vehicles. So not as long as far as time frame goes, but you do have those long straights that we're going to see from the cars. And again, so there's going to be 3 main straights where you see some overtake, but 5 total straights where you could potentially see overtakes. Probably not in the smaller 2 takes though. But overall, we have 44 laps of racing this weekend. So, and the weather looks to be pretty fair. I know you might disagree with that.
Man, it's going to rain. It rains at Spa. It's the longest track on the grid.
It should be a really good weekend for racing. So not going to be as hot as what we have seen in the past.
It's the longest track on the grid. So at one point somewhere during the race, there will be rain on the surface. I'm certain of it. But yeah, Spa actually used to be twice as long back in the day. This is the longest track on the grid. But man, could you imagine if we were still running a 7-mile long race?
Man. Well, and it's got one of the most iconic turns that you see in like every video where they're going uphill into a quick turn. It's like, man, I just can't wait to watch them going full speed on that in that quick turn. But yeah, so it's most of these tracks are broken into 3 sectors. In sector 1 and 3, I expect Mercedes just to absolutely dominate because it's majority straights. I'm interested to see in sector 3 in the tail end of the race if some of the cars just completely have a hard time keeping up the pace due to the whole deployment harvesting stuff. Do y'all think it's going to rear its ugly head again?
I think we might see some of it, but I will say that is where Mercedes is strongest, is their battery, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're going to see any of it, you're going to see the Mercedes guys, and Kimi's really good at it. That's one of the best things he is deploying and harvesting with this battery. So I think if you do see it affecting anybody, it's going to be the non-Mercedes power unit cars.
Well, and to add on to that, you said Kimi does it so well, and I think that's partially because Kimi he's the newest to these cars in general. He doesn't have a whole lot to compare it to, so most of what he's learned has been in this car. Most of the development has been while he's been in a Mercedes seat.
Yeah, no bad habits to readjust.
That's right. So, it's not like Max and Lewis and Fernando, these guys that have been on the grid for over a decade, and they're having to relearn this technology every single time they show up.
Yeah, and since he's been in Formula, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, it's been a hybrid motor. You know, so it's all he knows.
It's all he knows.
Well, I don't want to jump the gun here and talk about things that we might get into later, but as far as harvesting energy, I think this weekend's going to be a great weekend for Mercedes to do that with the upgrade package that they're doing with their suspension. It's supposed to lower the drag on the vehicle, so you'll probably see better harvesting than what you have seen from the other vehicles, or what you might expect from the other vehicles this weekend, to give them that boost in those straights. So that may be something to monitor throughout the race.
And while we're on that topic of the Mercedes power unit, I'm kind of expecting to see a little bit out of McLaren this weekend. It wouldn't shock me a bit if we see them sneak onto the podium this weekend. just based on the simple deployment and harvesting situation.
So with I'm sorry, you're saying McLaren, correct?
McLaren.
So
yes,
with McLaren, both of those vehicles are going to be on their third power unit of the year. And
that was what I was saying. This may be the race that if they have some kind of big overhaul, if they have some issues in qualifying, they may start from the pit lane. We'll see.
Well, I'll say with the Mercedes power units, the battery is the weakest link. It's not been really a lot of mechanical failures. Carlos has sounded horrible. So I think that was mechanical hard parts, but the power units, the battery portion of that has been what's been failing. And I think this week you're going to see another power unit failure because Spa is a challenging track. You're going to have a lot of regen and deployment. And when you go from no power to full power to depleting that source, it's going to be tough on these batteries. Ferrari's picked up the pace, Red Bull's picked up the pace, and that's going to force these Mercedes power units to work harder.
Sure.
And I think that it's going to push somebody on the grid is going to get bit.
So with that being said, let's cause a little bit of controversy or something to debate here for the viewers. Which team do you think it comes from?
It's real easy to point the finger at Williams, but I will.
It wouldn't be far-fetched.
I will say that I think it's going to be somebody that's going to be pushing hard. So I'm going to say, as much as I don't want to, I think it's George Russell. It could be Kimi, but I think it's George Russell just because I like Kimi, and I wouldn't mind hitting a little bit of a breathing room for
shocker
from
Joshua Underwood likes Kimi Antonelli. Whoa. World-breaking news here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it's not Kimi. I hope he can kind of get that break from the bad luck that he's had.
2 of the last 3 races he's had, reliability issues. So it's time for him to recoup some points and some momentum. And boy, it sure would be great to see George throw his headset again.
So I said Sector 1 and Sector 3, I expected the Mercedes and maybe even the McLarens to show out. Sector 2, do you have a take on Sector 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you said it earlier, the harvesting is just going to be like, with the straights that we have, you're just going to have to do as much as you can. And that may, with the lack of weather this weekend, or
we'll see.
Lack of predicted weather, right? That may be your determining factor, especially with some of the upgrades from our bigger teams. I think your harvesting, you hit the nail on the head. So as far as my take for Sector 2, yeah, I don't have anything groundbreaking,
Well, if I'm being honest, I'm thinking that Ferrari's going to have the advantage in Sector 2 simply because there are more turns. They have the best car. Like, I mean, development-wise,
right, the
best chassis, the best exterior design. It handles the aero situation best. So I do think Ferrari and maybe even Red Bull if Max.
I was about to say
Max come in some turns pretty hot.
If that track is wet, Max wins the race. That's how it is, man.
We'll
He's the best
see.
in the wet.
Maybe we'll get it.
Well,
maybe we'll
I
get
hope
it.
so. I'd love to see. We haven't had a wet weather race yet this year.
That's crazy.
Miami was the only one we had a threat, and it never came.
Yeah, we've had like light showers maybe, but nothing like so.
Yeah, they haven't put intermediates or the dreaded full wet tire on at all this season. So I'm curious to see what these new cars do in the rain, and this battery, how does that react to the wet weather? We might have to wait a few more weeks to see, but if it rains in Spa like it always does, you're going to see Max on a podium for sure.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, and look, I don't think that's so far-fetched, especially minus the last 2 years. You have Max, So he has won this race 3 years in a row. He's very good at this track. He knows it very well. And as long as he can get his rear wing to cooperate, he might do okay. So, I think it's not too far-fetched to see that we have a Max P1 finish, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those 3 years he won in a row, you're talking about 21, 22, and 23. The RB19 was around in 2023, and he is not driving that car this year. So cool your jets a little bit there, buddy. Yeah. But yeah, man, it's going to be a fun race. Spa is always a great race. It's such a long track. I think that if the rain does come, you're going to see the guys like Max. Kimi is actually a good wet weather driver. You just don't see it a lot because we haven't had rain.
Lando
wasn't going to be in my top 3. I was going to throw Lewis up there. Lewis is good at Spa, and he's good on a wet weather track.
But we had a big McLaren show out last year, and you're buffing me on that one a little bit. Could we see another McLaren show up, show out this year?
I don't think so.
I don't see it this year, and I think where my opinion comes from with that is what we spoke about on the last podcast, where it seems like they had a great start to the year, and not to say that they have fallen off by any means, just not performing to expectation as to what I think they tried to show out or show the fans that, hey, this is what to expect from us.
So on that note, y'all heard about the Macarena wing that they're potentially bringing?
Right, and then back to what you were saying, I will say I don't see that either. I think Lando and Oscar last year at this point in the season, the car they were driving was just so much better until Red Bull showed up with some upgrades and Max made his comeback. McLaren's not that team right now.
Sure.
And we really don't have a team like that. Mercedes would be, but they just can't finish a race.
Right.
So that being said, the Ferraris are there. We have great competition this year, and I'm happy to see it. The Ferrari guys are there. The Red Bulls are starting to show up. Mercedes is there. They are the best if the reliability can be resolved. But last year was so one-sided for McLaren for the first half of the season, and really, besides Max, nobody else even showed up after that either. So I don't think McLaren this week, and by the end of the year even, maybe, but I don't think they're going to have any kind of performances where last year it was, can Lando chase down Oscar and third place was 10, 15 seconds behind? You're not going to see that from McLaren this year.
Yeah, and look, I think you make a great point there as far as the competition.
Macarena wing or not.
as far as the competition goes, and I think we're just starting to see things heat up. Next week, you'll see some packages come out, and then as we roll into our summer break and then come back out of it, you'll see even more upgrades. So I know that there are other teams out there that have high expectations for these things, and if everything goes to spec and expectations are met from these other teams, you're going to start seeing the competition heat up a lot more than what we've seen in the last couple races.
One can hope. It remains to be seen, but a lot can happen over the summer. So I briefly spoke about McLaren's Macarena wing. I also read that Ferrari is upgrading their Macarena wing this week.
Yeah, so McLaren is introducing their Macarena wing this weekend, but Ferrari is doing a very track-specific wing, and they're calling it their Evo upgrade or Evo wing, right? And ultimately what it is just a wider or a larger physical gap between the main flaps, and it's supposed to create more downforce. It is a more aerodynamic upgrade for what they'll see, but again, it is track-specific. So whether or not they go back to it the following weekend in Hungary as far as their Macarena wing.
We'll whether or not they're allowed to. That's a big thing right now with the FIA is Red Bull's wing is under investigation and Ferrari's just catching a stray with this.
I think that's ultimately just for show though, right?
I mean, okay, so Ayrton Senna told them that was a dangerous corner, then he goes out and he dies. They're not going to let that happen again. Max Verstappen has had 2 horrible crashes at high speeds due to this wing, so they're being proactive. And if they have to ban it, I mean, they will. And like I said, Ferraris haven't had any issues with it, but they're going to end up. Now, maybe McLaren comes out and they have a good performance with this wing, or maybe they have a terrible performance with this wing. That's up in the air. But if they do great, maybe the pressure is from the other side is, look, everybody's doing it. They're the only ones having trouble.
Right.
This is a them problem, not a wing problem. Maybe that'll help the case. But, right now they are still, it's yet to be determined if they're going to be allowed to keep this. But speaking of the Macarena wings at Spa, we were talking, weather's supposed to be good. I'm still standing firm that it's going to rain. And that's very key to remember. The new wing that Ferrari's bringing and McLaren, if it rains, the straight line modes, the way it's going to work is, the rear wing doesn't open at all. The front wing will still open and close, but the rear wing is going to stay locked. So all this debate we're talking about right now, it's not even going to open. It's just going to be a fixed wing in the back. So what does that do?
I am going to contradict you a little bit because I think if it doesn't rain, right, in your long straights here, this track plays right into the hands of Ferrari and McLaren with their new wing upgrade, right? If they can catch a tailwind down that long straight, Ferrari's upgrade is supposed to get them approximately 7 miles an hour more as far as top speed goes. And if they've got that tail wing pushing them, I think it plays right into their hands. Now, again, that's all weather dependent.
Weather permitting.
But it could play very well into their hands. And I think when you have your Mercedes that have a great pace, but then you've got your Ferraris that are coming back by, they're already expecting, right, a 7 mile an hour difference with that tailwind. Does it push their pace a little bit further than Mercedes is seeing?
Well, could make for a dang good race.
Well, and again, it's back to deployment in my mind. Like, you can have 7 more mile an hour, but if you run out of battery 100 yards before the Mercedes do, that's all for naught. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting to see. But what I was getting at is if they are locked close, it does the opposite effect. Because they are creating downforce, and when they open up, that's whenever they're picking up the speed. So if they are locked, it's just like having the wing stays permanent, and that extra downforce the downforce you're not gaining, the drag resistance that's leaving when you open the wing, so that it's more aerodynamic in theory, you're going to lose that speed, and it's going to actually do the opposite effect. It's going to make you slower.
Right.
So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I think this race very well may be weather dependent. You did make a great point, though. We have seen rain here a lot in the past. Just off the weather forecast, we see it,
Well, and this race is basically on the side of a mountain. So you can have a segment of the track that has some rain, and then another segment that is completely bone dry.
And sunny, yep.
It's very, very weather dependent. But let's get off of the debates and get on to our predictions. So on pole, I have George Russell getting the pole. Not sure if he's going to finish the race in that position, but I have him in pole. Who do you have at pole?
I have Kimi taking pole. I think Kimi shows up and shows out.
What about you?
I have unbiased opinion, by the way.
I have Lewis.
Not so unbiased opinion.
I have Lewis starting P1. I think we're going to see him. Lewis has shown that you can't ever count him out this season.
Yeah, I think the pace in the Ferrari's
with
there.
With the upgrades that they're bringing, I think we see a P1 start with him.
Safe pick.
For the Ferrari, okay.
Who's your P1 finisher?
I'll give you one guess.
Kimi
Antonelli from the pole takes this one. Kid's happy again. We're having fun. We're playing pranks in the garage.
We should have this big neon sign that says "Surprise! Surprise!"
Hot take. Yeah, I got Kimi from the pole winning this race. I think it's going to be. If it rains, he's good in the rain. If it doesn't rain, he's got the best car. And I think 2 of the last 3 weeks, like you saw the meme of George and Kimi with Toto as the parent. It was a kid playing a game, and George's face was on it, and it was the mom, and he was Toto was the mom. And he was like, "Hey, you've had your turn. You've had 2 turns. Now give it back to Kimi." And I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to double, triple, and quadruple check that car. And Kimi's not going to have any issues this week. He's going to be reliable, and he's going to do what he does best, which is go out and win races.
Yep. What about you, Justin?
I've got Russell, and I think I know I've got Lewis starting P1. I think this is where he comes back from the 24 race, and he says, you know what? I'm going to earn my win. I'm going to earn it fair and square. And Lewis, you're going to give me that. So.
He doesn't pit at all this time.
George kind of got messed out of a P1 finish in 2024.
Rules are rules, brother.
We were talking about that. I still don't know if I agree with it. But basically what happened was...
He cheated and his car was too light.
Stop. He didn't cheat. He stayed out. He only pitted one time, stayed out, but the tire degradation and the gas usage is what ultimately cost him the race.
Well, I will say, if you haven't seen the 2024 Spa race, go watch it.
Yes,
yeah, because George, it came down to a wonderful finish. That was a good one.
Incredible finish. But anyway, so my pick for P1, I'm going to take your advice that it is going to rain, and I'm going to say Max Verstappen is going to get his first win.
I hope so. If it rains, that would be great to see. I think Kimi's going to do it. I don't think Red Bull still has the car yet if it doesn't rain.
Probably not.
But, I mean...
One can hope.
Yeah, no, most definitely. There's other drivers that you could have picked that would have been a lot hotter take than Max Verstappen finds his way to P1. P2, actually, I have Max Verstappen. So I do think that he does have a good performance this week. I think that there is going to be some rain, and he will make his way to P2. What about you, Justin?
For P2, I've got Lewis. So I start him on the pole. Again, I don't think I'm not counting him out of anywhere. I'm not taking him off the podium anywhere in the near future. I know I said that a while back that maybe you don't. I think Ferrari's kind of proved me wrong, giving me a little bit more confidence in them. So that's where I've got Lewis this weekend.
And it's a good pick because he did post a picture this week with Kim K, so the relationship is still strong.
Yeah.
He's still got all those vibes ever since she's been in the picture. The Ferrari curse, the Kim K curse, they've neutralized each
That's
other.
going to completely ruin your P1 pick.
For real. Where's the voodoo doll? Because Kimi ain't making the podium.
Just keep her away from his towels. That's all I got to say.
So at P2, I have Kimi. I don't think that's an outlandish pick.
No, I think we're all pretty much in the same group of top 5, honestly.
Sure. And then for P3, I'll start. I have George finishing P3.
Yeah, I've got Lewis.
I've got Kimi.
Love this. Toss them in a bag and just see which one falls out, right? I think what we just picked, the top 4, I didn't have George in there. And I will go ahead and say that that is going to be my hot take for the week, is I don't think George finishes in the points. I told you earlier.
Not in the points?
I don't think he finishes in the points. I think it's probably going to be something DNF detrimental. I don't know I wouldn't go as far as say he makes contact or driving sloppy, but I think something happens with his car and the Mercedes reliability issue bites George Russell. It's his turn. And I think that George finishes outside the points. Now, whether that's dead last DNF or it's P11 fighting hard to get back into the points, but his luck this year has been pretty on the lower end of things, and I could see a pit lane penalty coming in, or he pits early and puts on wet or intermediates whenever it's raining really hard, and then as soon as he comes out the pits it dries up, something of that nature. I think that just in my vibes this week are that the cards are going to be stacked against George.
Yeah, if he was a back-wrap player, he'd be terrible.
I couldn't agree with you. I don't
play that either. This is America. We play football and hockey. Anyway, Justin, who you got for P7 this week? That'll be our random pick of the week.
Yep, P7, I'm going to go with Liam Lawson.
Liam Lawson. The most average of average picks anybody could have averaged.
I'm going safe here, man.
Liam's not average.
You know what? I've been going to see Lynn Black just get up ahead of him. I just, realistically speaking, trying to get some points in this thing, I'm going to go with Lawson, yeah.
I got Oscar Piastri at 7th. Y'all are
also a really good pick, I think.
Y'all are raving about these Macarena wings, but I see Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull even looking good.
Same.
Yeah,
all the same.
And I think Lando beats him as far as ahead of on-track McLaren teammate battles. I think Oscar's going to get a solid P7, and it's just going to be another one of those days where nobody says his name, nobody talks about him. He shows up, goes to work, and goes home.
Josh, I think you have a softer place in your heart for Lando Norris than what you lead on, bud.
You watch your mouth. Anyway, you got it, P7, Cam.
I got Isaac. I think he's in form. I don't see him getting on the podium, but I think he's going to have another solid points finish and keep up his streak.
Okay. Yep. Red Bull's solid is what I'm hearing from Cameron. Okay. Well, I mean, I don't disagree with either one of those picks. I think all three of those, again, like you said, toss them up in the air. They could all fall into P7. But we'll see. So I said my hot take. My cold take, I will say, for this week is going to be, I'll say both Ferraris in the top 5.
Both Ferraris, yeah, I could definitely see that, yeah.
Yep. I think that's a solid pick. I think that Lewis is going to be on the podium, and I think Shaw is going to bounce back from that win with a top 5. But I don't think that he does anything more to get on the podium. I think last week was out of nowhere, but I do think that, in my opinion, Lewis is still the stronger Ferrari.
So you think Shaw's win was a fluke?
Not a fluke. I didn't say that. Oh, his agent's going to call me tomorrow. How dare you? No, I think that Shaw's good for sure. I'm just saying that I think Lewis is the stronger Ferrari driver, and I think that he's going to be on the podium before Shaw.
Right now, I would tend to agree. My hot take is going to be that we're going to see a V-Carb podium. Finally, one of our V-Carb boys makes it on the podium. Last year, we only had one V-Carb podium. Isaac finished 3rd one time. I'm saying that that's going to happen this race at Spa.
Okay, it's not. But what is your hot take? There's no way. There's no way that's going to happen, man.
That's why it's a hot take, right?
Yeah. If the Macarena wings, it can happen. If the McLaren Macarena wings show up, they're so terrible that Lando takes out George and Kimi on lap 1.
Oh, hush, dude.
Oscar takes out.
Now you're getting into my hot take. Okay? And it sounds like maybe it's not so hot of a take, right? Because that is my hot take, is that McLaren does introduce this Macarena wing, but they kind of have the luck that Red Bull has had. And again, this take is going off the lack of weather here, right? I see that McLaren does not have the success that anybody else has had, but instead what we see in Red Bull, they have a malfunction in the wing. They cause a race result altering collision, and so that's my hot take, right? Due to the lack of weather, if the weather's not going to change it, McLaren's going to. I don't care which boy does it, but I think we're going to see. That's what we're going to see. On the other hand, with my cold take, I'm going to stick, since it's the weekend of the wing. I think what we're going to see from Ferrari is that with their new Evo wing, the success that they have had so far, I think you're going to see, and I know that I predicted a double podium from Mercedes, but at the same time, I'm not going to count Shaw out. I think that you see Mercedes and Ferrari battling it out for that double podium. I'd like to see a Mercedes double podium. I just don't think that Ferrari's going to give it up that easy. So I think with their track-specific wing, I think you're going to see that fight for that number 3 spot.
Wow. Well, that'd be awesome. So my mild take is going to be that we're going to see Audi get another points finish.
We're doing mild takes.
We got a hot take, a cold take.
It's like the mild sauce.
Right. I mean, that's fair.
Everybody loves it. It's possible.
I don't know that I prepped for that.
Audi could definitely be in the points, especially if what you think is going to happen with the V-carb on the podium, you're thinking that only 9 cars finish. So I could definitely see an Audi in the points.
I'm expecting Justin's pick to come to fruition and McLaren just slide across the track and take out like the top 5 drivers, you know?
Do what Kimi
you'd have
did.
to be in the lead to take out the top 5. Don't see that happen.
Right.
Fair.
Right.
Off the jump. We'll say it happens.
The only one he takes out is Nando because he just doesn't care, doesn't even hit the brakes, just does it on purpose. End it. Just destroy that Aston Martin car. He's just had enough of it.
Oh, gosh. Poor guy.
They're supposed to be bringing, after this Grand Prix, Aston Martin is supposed to be bringing some upgrades for the next race. And what I saw today, they said that the aero points or the car's going to be so improved that it's going to be worth like 2.5 seconds a lap. Which, that's a huge jump in Formula One, but what's even worse is that that's still only going to put them ahead of Cadillac. Like, that's not even going to make them competitive, which is horrifying for Aston Martin fans.
Right now, they only have 1 point in the constructor standings, and I know that they plan on bringing
a fluky point at that.
Right, but they are going to bring the upgrade, right? And you'd like to say all these other teams are bringing upgrades. It seems like from everything that you hear from the Aston Martin team is that they are bringing the upgrade of the season.
Yeah.
I hope it's not the only upgrade, but it seems like when you listen to Adrian Newey and
aero specialist,
correct, quote. And so, but there's so much going on at Aston Martin right now with the expectations from Lawrence Stroll, going to the new power unit with Honda and things like that. There's just a lot of going on. I think it's causing a lot of controversy. Maybe not so vocal about it. Maybe the drivers haven't been so vocal about it. But yeah, I think we'll see a lot more of that from the next race next weekend.
Well, I saw Adrian Newey had made a statement in an interview, and he was talking about these cars, and he even mentioned that going back to the early 2000s, this team, some of the stuff they were using, the equipment they were using, and their processes, and just everything has been. They basically need to just wipe the slate clean and start from scratch. Like their processes, the equipment they're using, everything is so dated and patched over, I believe is the term he used. Right. That it's a patch over, a patch over, a patch over, and now you just got this conglomerate of making it work. That's what Adrian Newey is leaning towards, saying that their program is lacking. But we shall see. But I will say 1 point in the constructors is a big deal, because another guy that I think is on the hot seat, which we'll talk about later in another episode, is James Vowles. Remember, Williams only has 3 points in the Constructors this year. And if Aston Martin, the diabolical season they're having, if they manage to somehow get one P7 this year, they're ahead of Williams in the Constructors. And what kind of a look is that for a team that finished so strong last year to come in this year?
I agree with you there, but I think there's a lot to look at there, because when you look at James Vowles coming in, right, before he took over, again, there's only 10 teams. They were consistently finishing last. And so for him to take over, and you are seeing better results from this team, right? And then, but also, could we say that's James Vowles, or do we say that that's the Carlos Sainz effect, right? Carlos Sainz has a reputation of coming to teams and producing better results. Yeah. Again, they had that package a couple weeks ago where that was supposed to produce, and it didn't. And James Vowles was very transparent about that. But I think you have, between Williams and Aston Martin, you have two completely different team leaders, where over here on Adrian Newey, you have, at least he's taken ownership of the fact that there's a lack of communication there, and that may be where some external frustration comes. But Vowles has been very transparent, and at least he's owning everything. So again, two completely different teams, two completely different takes on the way that those are being run, but a lot of controversy kind of within the teams themselves.
Yeah, and the best thing right now that could happen for Williams, if you look at the resume, is for Carlos Sainz to leave. Every time he leaves a team, they become great. But all jokes aside, I will say with Carlos, he's at that age now, man. He's 30, 31 years old. That's when Michael Schumacher really started taking off. That's when some of your other guys that have really been successful in the sport, call it his prime. He's a little older for the modern grid, but he ain't got a lot of time left to prove himself. But he can't Fernando Alonso himself and end up at a Williams for the next 4 or 5 years with we're trying, James is honest, but we're still consistently 14th. That's just not going to work for Carlos.
So both teams are trying to project that they're in the correct trajectory, but one could potentially argue that they are in opposite trajectories.
Yeah, I mean, I think Williams right now is on a slide.
Exactly. And so when you bring in Adrian Newey, you expect good things long term. I mean, sometimes the best thing to happen is just to rip the Band-Aid off and start all over from fresh. And I think that Adrian Newey has the pedigree, he has the experience to do that for Aston Martin. I mean, there's just so much that has to happen at that team for them to be competitive again, because they really haven't been competitive as long as they've been a team. I mean, they've been midfield-ish.
They were pretty good. Nando was pretty good in 23. You just don't remember it because that RB19 stole the spot.
That's fair.
Stole the show. Fair. But they've had their moments where they've shown they were on podium. They've proven that they can be good. The pink Mercedes days before they were Aston Martin, but still the same organization, Lawrence Stroll's program. They can be good, and if what we're hearing from Adrian Newey is true, they're dealing with patchwork from the older days of Force India and such. Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes sense, but also get it together, guys. I saw the new facility. You can't tell me that they built that beautiful brand new building and shipped in the old machines from 2002. That just doesn't make sense.
And they've had time. You'd think that over the last 2 seasons, I mean, they've had plenty of time to develop this engine, develop this car.
I mean, they got the regulations the same day Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren. They all started on these cars the same day.
Right.
Oh, now you guys are speaking of Williams, or are you speaking of Aston Martin at this point?
Aston Martin specifically.
Okay, well, but so I think when you're talking about that, again, they are running a new power unit, right? This is Adrian Newey's first year as a team principal by himself, right? Last year you had Andy Cowell, and he was only there for that 1 year, and that was by design because he was the Mercedes power unit expert, right? He was the guru, and so he was there to just help them to transition. But if you look at Newey's resume, he's always dealt with teams that are fairly competitive, midfield, not terrible teams,
Good,
right?
Not great.
But he's never had an overhaul like this. And also, again, Lawrence Stroll, and you're talking about long-term stuff. In the last 6 years, we've seen 4 team principals, right? Now, do we really count Andy Cowell as one of the team principals? Because that was by design, right? But even still, in 6 years, without him, we still have 3 principals. What is long-term at Aston Martin?
That's true.
Right?
And Honda's not doing them any favors, speaking of long-term. That new power unit they have this year is easily the worst on the grid.
Well, they're supposed to have an overhaul coming into the 2027 season with their power unit. So I think I would like to say that being the billionaire businessman that Lawrence Stroll is, he understands that you don't invest into something that you can't count on, or he has taken a huge gamble in lots of ways here. But do you really gamble that much on an entire power unit?
Well, that's a hot take you just brought to my mind. Lance Stroll doesn't seem to be enjoying himself. Another couple seasons of this, do you think that there's Lawrence just washes his hands of it and then this team turns into trades hands again? I mean, is Aston Martin's time in F1 coming to a close? Who knows?
Here's the thing, though, and look, again, and I made this point last time, is that his son is the Nepo baby. He is the travel ball team coach's son, right? If you're expecting a Constructors' Championship and you have looked at the past 5-6 years of your son in the Driver Championship, what do you expect? What expectations do you have of getting a constructor? I mean, you better have a jam-up car.
Right.
Even, it's just, even when they were running midfield, you didn't see a lot out of Lance Stroll there.
No, I mean, I've heard it said repeatedly over and over again on multiple podcasts and from multiple different viewpoints. I don't think it's really much of an argument to say that Lance Stroll is the worst driver on the grid.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue that. It's a lot easier, I think, for Lance to not try, again, because his seat's not under threat. The team is terrible. He doesn't have the drive. So, if this was the Lance of 6 years ago, I think it's a different story. But yes, this year he has looked, probably the worst on the grid.
Overall, his best driver finish is 10th place. I mean,
This year?
No. I'm talking about at the end of the year.
Oh, point
driver standing, driver point standing. His
you.
best finish is 10th. If you look at the history, and I mean, again, Lawrence Stroll coming into this and expecting, does Newey try to shake things up at Aston Martin and say, hey, Lawrence, if you want to win a Constructors' Championship, let's get off of your son.
It's me or your son.
I think right now that choice is obvious. I'm going with Lance Stroll as my son because Adrian Newey hasn't brought a car that makes me want to choose him, and that's what I was getting to. You need to have that car that you need to have before you say fire your own blood. You need to have guys knocking on your door wanting to come race for you. The Carlos Sainz, the Max Verstappen, the Oscar Piastris, and you wouldn't catch any of those 3 near that Aston Martin camp right now.
Speaking of the Carlos Sainz has been rumored in the last few days as going to a couple of different teams, the top being Audi.
I think he'd be a good fit at Audi. I don't know who they'd replace. Probably Hulk, just because he was kind of a developmental driver. Bortoleto has a promising future, and Hulk's been around a while. But I'd hate to see it. I love Nico. But yeah, I mean, silly season's starting to get. You're starting to hear things. Max Verstappen's going to go drive for McLaren next year. That's what I've heard. I've also heard Ollie Behrman and Oscar Piastri is going to be racing at Red Bull. So. It's about to get interesting. It's time for contracts to be coming out. People are going to be signing paperwork soon, so we will see. But speaking of signing paperwork, what do y'all think of Mohammed bin Sulayem's comments this week about the power units that he's saying he wants to get like a third party involved selling these new V8 motors so that like you won't have the issues? Because I think behind closed doors, I really think it's coming from McLaren, and they have a right to be. But the you can either build your own motor, or basically what he wants to do is have like a turnkey off-the-shelf motor that you can purchase from a third party like a Renault or like a...
But then we're just another spec series though.
Ish. I mean, you're still building your own car. The spec series is kind of the opposite. It's usually you have more control of your power unit than the chassis. But what he's trying to say is it's a tough spot. He wants to make them cheaper so that the McLarens of the world, the Alpines of the world can start developing their own motors, or buying a generic motor. But it's a little unfair for a Mercedes top competitor to be McLaren, and they have to wait on the Mercedes teams to, the Mercedes, I should say, motor department to figure out what happened to their engines and give them answers. And maybe those answers aren't always right. I would like to think there's integrity involved, but there's billions at stake. So, who knows what's going on. But, as you said, McLaren's on their third power unit on these cars already. And we're 25-30% way through the season this year. So, I understand it, but I also do agree. I don't like the idea per se, but I would like to see a series where the motors are cheap enough to develop. You get rid of all the over technicality of it, and you end up having power units that each team can develop. Mercedes cars running a Mercedes power unit, Cadillac's running a Cadillac, Ferrari, and such.
Well, and I think McLaren would have a bigger argument if they get past that third power unit. If they get into the situation where they're burning places on the grid because they're having to completely overhaul the engine,
things that are out of their control.
Then they're going to have a bigger argument. They're going to have a more cards to play when it comes to the debate table. As far as, do I want a singular development engine that, to spec? I think it's a bad idea for the sport. I mean, that's kind of what sets Formula One apart. But at the same token, if it means screaming engines again and that's what we get, shoot, that sounds pretty good to me.
They still have the option, and I completely understand what you're saying, but they still have the option to create their own motor. And like Josh was saying, is just not having to wait for all this data to come back, right? They're creating their own data and things like that. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I mean, again, when you see like the shift that we're going to see, hopefully in the in the future, moving back towards the V8 engines, I still think we've got a little bit to go before we see that full transition. Obviously, I'm not mad at it, right? I still think it gives each team a little bit of individuality if they choose to. And if they don't want to, well, they don't have to.
Right. And what do you think about when we do go back to these V8 engines, the refueling issue? You're going to have to refuel. They're not going to be as efficient with no battery power. You're not going to start a race and run a full race with one tank of gas.
No, but it would would bring back more disparity. I think it would give the teams in the mid maybe an extra chance here or there if we have an issue in the pit.
It definitely would. It throws another element of strategy into the mix. You'll see say Arvin Lindblad come out and knock out a flying lap on pole, and it's like, is he that fast, or is he running no gas to start the race tomorrow? So he's the lightest car, so he's going to pit in the first 3 laps, and then it turns out like Michael Schumacher did that a bunch, he obviously had no gas in the car. Nope, he was just that much faster. You're waiting the first 3 or 4 laps for him to pit. But what happened with those races is when you do have guys running different strategies, a lot of times, and the other generation of Formula One cars were different, of course, but this is my take on it, is that I think you have to have the car competitive, and you have to have the overtakes. The last generation, the ground effects era cars couldn't pass in those cars, especially at certain tracks like Monaco.
Too wide.
And you're going to have racing abled cars to make overtakes, because you might end up with what we had a problem of in the mid 2000s, 2010 era, right before they banned refueling, which I think was 09. But anyway, you had all the overtakes happening in the pits. Every overtake was in the pits. You didn't see anybody passing anybody on track. And I don't want to see that again. But again, that was 20 years ago. So maybe they figured it out, but it would throw a whole different element into the mix. Again, right now you have these mid 2-second pit stops, which are so impressive. Brother, I can change a tire in 10 seconds if you got to fill the tank up with gas. So all these guys that are running these pit crews and stuff, it is a slight to them. You don't have to be as skilled anymore, but that would take away some of the mistakes that you have in the pit lane and things of that nature. So it's just a different piece of on the chessboard, so to speak. And
I think it would be interesting too, because just technology development wise, we've come so far in 20 years in terms of the aerodynamics of the car. If you look at even the design of the rear wings from the 2010s, you just had flat rear wings. Now you have rear wings that can change in 3 different directions, and It's like I do think it would be interesting. It would add a new element to just have longer pits. But I think we're kind of getting long here, aren't we?
Well, I think perhaps. But the last thing I will say is that maybe you could take the battery, because those batteries are heavy. Maybe that can be a bigger fuel tank. I don't know. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with these new regulations. That's years away. But this weekend, we have Spa. This is going to be a great Belgium Grand Prix, and I can't wait to be on the next episode with
Belgium, an actual country, by the way.
An actual country, yeah. I can't wait to be on the next podcast basking in all my correct picks. So until next time, we'll see you guys. Don't forget, like and subscribe. And if you think we're out of our minds with any of these picks, drop it in the comments. Let us know.